Hey, what's up, everyone? So, a couple days ago, Rick Beato made a video talking about how today's music has pathetically bad lyrics. Now, I respect Rick Beato a whole lot, and I do agree with a lot of what he has to say in this video, but I somewhat disagree with the thesis slash premise of this video, and I'm going to explain why. So, he starts off the video with a Jack Harlow song where he complains first of all, he complains about the lyrics being bad, obviously. And I just think it's unfair to pick a dance record, top 40 dance record, and to focus on its lyrics. Usually, dance records or party records, the lyrics are kind of secondary. It's more about the bop, it's more about the vibe. So I think that was kind of like a not so good example. Jack Harlow does have pretty good songs with pretty decent lyrics. Not saying he's the best lyricist, but using a pop record, a pop dance record to make this point was probably not the best idea. Second of all, he complains about the sample being out of tune. And again, it kind of feels like Beato is a little bit out of touch with current trends, right? So in the hip hop space, samples being out of tune is a pretty common thing, particularly dance records. Back in the day, this was kind of like a popular thing to do where the radio DJ would mix live on the radio before there were auto tuners and all this stuff on the DJ board. And they would, they would have one sample, one beat going over top of an acapella that would be completely out of tune. And as a musician, I get it. It sounds wrong, but it did create a certain vibe of a sense of spontaneity and excitement. And again, as a musician, I know it sounds bad. I know it sounds out of tune, but it appeals to a large audience. And this particular record, this Jack Harlow record, it kind of has a throwback feel to that time period, which I think is what he was going for. At this point, pop records, if they're out of tune, it's pretty much intentionally done. I mean, I'm sure Beato knows this, but even if the producer doesn't have the best ear, there's all sorts of plugins and ways for even a producer with the worst ear on earth to be able to identify if something's out of tune or not. So at this point with technology, if someone does something out of tune or plays a wrong note in a song, it's more than likely purposely done. There's just way too many plugins, way too many ways for them to be able to identify this stuff. And yeah, so that was my little thing about Jack Harlow. Next, he talks about the Beyonce record, Texas Hold'em. And again, taking a dance record, now granted, this is country, taking a dance record and hyper focusing on the lyricism, I just don't think it's fair. Most pop records throughout any era, they've never, pop dance records have never really been lyrically inclined. It's more about the feel, the bop, the vibe. So I just don't think it's fair. I mean, he loves to use the Beatles as example. Even early Beatles music, it was so basic. She loves me, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loves me, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like very repetitive, very basic. Um, so this has been forever since the history of dance pop records. Like the lyricism is not it. It's more about the groove, the bop, the vibe. How does it connect with the demographic culturally? There's just a lot that goes behind a pop dance record outside of just music. And I guess that's my second really takeaway from this whole Rick Beato video that I have a big problem is that just culturally he doesn't get it. Just like he didn't get the Jack Harlow reference to that time period in R&B and hip hop where things were out of tune and it was cool. You know, he's focusing on the music. He's looking at things from a musical plane, but he's missing the cultural elements to this. So like this whole Beyonce thing, like really like focusing on lyricism, it should be the last thing. Like culturally, this song, Beyonce's making a larger cultural point about Black artists in country music and reclaiming that heritage. So like, is the lyrics really that important? Then the bigger message is the bigger point. And I just recently finished listening to the Beyonce country album, and we can 100% hear through that album the songs she chose to cover, the features she had. She's making a larger statement. It's not just about being ultra lyrical or ultra whatever. She's making a larger statement. Now, and then just to go back to my point, when you listen to this Beyonce album, like you can just go through it. There's so much musicianship, so much musicality. There are album cuts that have incredible lyricism. Beyonce's voice, and Beato did give Beyonce credit for her voice, is incredible. The vocal arrangements are incredible. Um, so yeah, like just focusing on this one song and or focusing on songs that are like dance records, pop dance records, and focusing on the lyricism, I just think it's really bad because there's very few times in history where dance pop records had like profound profound lyrics. Now, if you don't want to believe that this Beyonce country album or a country song, Texas Hold'em, is a country dance record, just go on TikTok. She literally has a dance that goes along to it. So, lyrics are not always like the main emphasis. And again, similarly to the Harlow thing, the Harlow record, Beato calls out like wrong notes in the banjo or just unpleasant notes. And again, like this is the repetitive of that banjo thing in the beginning. It's a throwback to sampling. Like that's a common thing when you sample and you something is repetitive and you limit yourself in that sense. That's a ode to sampling in a sense. If you want to make the argument, I don't know, maybe they did play the wrong note, but if you the same way Beato is analyzing it through a classical theoretical point of view, I could also analyze it through a hip hop theoretical view. Like, what if I wanted to say, like, hey, they played those notes, the same note repetitively on purpose because they wanted to make it sound like a sample? It was an ode to sampling and how in sampling we're limited, right? It's like you could go so many different directions just depending on how you're looking at it. But yeah, this particular um, Beato video kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Um, Again, just to summarize, throughout the history of pop dance records, it's very rare that you get something ultra lyrical because that's usually not the emphasis. And on top of that, when you're looking at music, we shouldn't just look at it through like our limited Western European theoretical view. Like, we need to consider culture, cultural relevance, and we need to consider just different viewpoints as to why someone would do something a certain way. Think about like an artist of the caliber of Beyonce literally has access to the best producers, best engineers, best musicians. Do you really think they would not pick up on something that was musically wrong? Everything they do, it's on purpose. Like so, like for Beato to assume that Beyonce's team would let something musically just not be right or not be purposeful, I think is kind of I don't know. I think is a little bit rude or demeaning to Beyonce because she literally has access to the best music. And I personally know some of the musicians on her team, and they are top notch, world class musicians. They everything Beato heard, they heard too, which leads me to believe that they did what they did purposefully for a reason. Um, so yeah, that's all I gotta say. And again, I love Rick Beato, but that was a really, 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 really bad take. Um, so with that being said, peace out, and Uh, and yeah, I hope we learned something from this video. You know, we can't just look at everything through a Western European classical sort of theoretical point of view. There's more perspectives and viewpoints and things to consider in music. All right, peace out.